My coffee's over there, which is fine because I shouldn't be drinking coffee anyway. Not while we're doing this. All right, let's see who's here. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so something just happened. Something just broke. A breaking news story 40 minutes ago. BuzzFeed ran a thing, which is why today's show is going to be a little discombobulated because it's an important enough story that we have to talk about it. Not doing that right now, though. I'm actually sort of starting the show without starting the show, aren't I? Let's see. Roll call substitute. Brian is doing the roll call today. Is John not here? Says John's here. I don't know. Brian, Hank, Matthew, Roger, Bill, John, Donna, Bill, Eugene, Andrew, Jeff, David, Deborah, and Rick. And Brian says he hopes he got everybody. Thank you very much for doing that, Brian. Hi, everybody. Bill, I don't know how this show is going to go. Because that's kind of the way. Whatever. We'll read the thing and we'll do the thing and we'll yeah. Stand by. Insert clever title here. It is Friday, the 8th of January, 2021, and this is macOS Can Live. Oh, it's exciting. It's live. I tells ya. Well, it was when I did it anyway, which was a while ago for a lot of you. Hi, everybody. It's Ken Ray, host of macOS Ken and some other shows. Thank you very much for joining me for this show, macOS Ken Live. It is a thing that we do Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, other times, other places. Generally speaking, what happens is we get together and we talk about something that, may have been on macOS Ken, maybe something else I'm thinking about. I don't remember having a show like this one where there was a story that came in that I thought, well, that's got to blow the other stuff out. The second half of today's show, we may talk about the posturing from a couple of Democratic commissioners on the Federal Trade Commission, because I've already prepared stuff for that. Probably we'll talk about that. First half of the show, though, or at least first part of the show, we got to talk about something that just came from BuzzFeed. About 10 minutes till 3 on the West Coast. Apple has apparently threatened to ban Parler or Parlay, depending on how you say it, from the App Store. If you don't know Parler or Parlay, it's where the I don't know a good way to say it. I would say people who lean heavy to the right are fans of Parler, use Parler. And apparently a lot of them actually used it to help plan the seditious insurrection that they tried to pull off, or maybe succeeded in pulling off. They just take over at the Capitol earlier this week. Let's see. Here's part of what Apple said. Actually, I'm going to go down to their complaint because BuzzFeed has already posted that. I'll read parts of it to you. We have received numerous complaints regarding objectionable content in your Parler service, accusations that the Parler app was used to plan, coordinate, and facilitate the illegal activities in Washington, D.C. on the 6th of January, 2021 that led, among other things, to loss of life, numerous injuries, and the destruction of property. The app also appears to continue to be used to plan and facilitate yet further illegal, dangerous activities. Our investigation has found that Parler is not effectively moderating and removing content that encourages illegal activity and poses a serious risk to health and safety of users in direct violation of your own terms of service. Content of this dangerous and harmful nature is not appropriate for the App Store, and from prior conversations with App Review, Apple requires apps with user-generated content to effectively moderate and ensure objectionable, potentially harmful content is filtered out. Content that threatens the well-being of others or is intended to incite violence or other lawless acts has never been acceptable on the App Store. Your CEO was quoted recently saying, "But I don't feel responsible for any of this, and neither should the platform, considering we're a neutral town square that just adheres to the law. We want to be clear that Parler is, in fact, responsible for all the user-generated content present on your service and for ensuring that this content meets App Store requirements for the safety and protection of our users. We won't distribute apps that present dangerous and harmful content. And then they outlined the 2 guidelines that they're saying need to be taken care of, why they're bringing this. Guideline 1.1, safety, objectionable content. We found that your app includes content that some users may find upsetting, offensive, or otherwise objectionable. Specifically, we found direct threats of violence and calls to incite lawless action. Guideline 1.2, safety, user-generated content. Your app enables the display of user-generated content, but does not have sufficient precautions in place to effectively manage objectionable content present in your app. So fix it within 24 hours or you're out, is what Apple is saying. Please remove all objectionable content from your app and submit your revised binary for review. Such content includes any content similar to the examples attached in the message, and the examples are horrendous. I clicked through to a couple of them. Not on Parler, because I don't have it. People have been screenshotting it and posting it on Twitter saying this is happening and it ought to stop. Things like, you should have burned down the Capitol with Nancy Pelosi in it, they said on Parler. So they're nice. Such content includes any content similar to the examples attached to the message, as well as any content referring to harm to people or attacks on government facilities now or at any future date. In addition, you must respond to this message with detailed information about how you intend to moderate and filter this content from your app and what you will do to improve moderation and content filtering your service for this kind of objectionable content going forward. To ensure there is no interruption of the availability of your app on the App Store, please submit an update and the requested moderation improvement plan within 24 hours of the date of this message. If we do not receive an update compliant with the App Store review guidelines and the requested moderation improvement plan in writing within 24 hours, your app will be removed from the App Store. So that happened. Man. There were a lot of funny jokes actually on Wednesday night when both Facebook and Twitter had suspended President Trump's accounts, saying that he was angrily trying to remember how to get into his Google Hangout. Another one said that he was angrily complaining about Mitch McConnell in a customer review on Amazon's website. These guys are going to find someplace else to go. And I'm not saying so leave Parler open. No, these are all rules by which they have all agreed to play. That's probably going to be a theme in today's show, honestly. These are all rules by which all of these people have agreed to play. And I don't understand why everybody keeps turning a blind eye to it. I don't understand why people keep looking the other way on it. At the same time, Parler being gone is a disruption for a little bit. They're going to find another place to play. And when I say play, I mean try to subvert democracy and kill people. It's all fun and games. Yeah, so honestly, I don't have a clear anything on that story because seriously, I had written up this whole other thing and it was about 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe before I was supposed to come on that I saw that come across. Somebody sent it to me actually. Didn't even hit my news feed, honestly. I hit refresh to see if anybody else had another take on it. And so far, all I've seen is the BuzzFeed thing. So kudos to them. There are probably going to be people who say that you need to go ahead and leave Parler there. Certainly people on the right are going to say that. This is an app that has a presence for, a few people you might have heard of. Ted Cruz, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, President Donald Trump's family members and surrogates. They've all established accounts on Parler, and they've urged their followers on other social media sites to do the same. I'm not back to the sense of desperation that I had earlier this week. I'm now up to a real sense of frustration. people are probably going to say, well, we're just talking. We should be allowed to talk, and you're quelling our free speech. Well, first of all, Apple is a for-profit company, and I mean, it's up to them. There was a comic book, and one of the first apps developed as a comic book by a guy that I'm friendly with. His name is PJ Holden. He used to draw for. He still draws actually for 2000 AD. He draws for Judge Dredd and a couple of other of their titles. And he came up with a comic book that they were trying to sell as an app. It was called Murder Drome, I believe it was. And Apple rejected it because it was too violent. And I interviewed PJ about him. That's how we became friendly about it. And he was like, yeah, it's kind of a bummer, but, he gets it. He got it at the time. And he got the fact that, Apple is a company that gets to decide stuff like that. And anybody who says, they should be allowed to talk needs to figure out what their stance was on the kneeling of Colin Kaepernick. He was non-violently expressing his opinion about something. And I have family members who said he should just shut up and take his money or get off the field. Yeah, how dare he have an opinion? But, these people can go ahead and have their opinions and also plan their little, their cute little revolution. I don't know. Probably going to hear a lot more about that on Monday's Mac OS Ken would be my guess, because there will likely be all kinds of hooping and hollering and think pieces. Heck, there'll probably be 10 by the time we're done here this afternoon. Yeah. Sorry. People in the president's orbit are saying that they should just, let him serve out his 12 days and then be done and not pursue prosecuting, because that might divide the country. If you're keeping score, that is the same president who encouraged people to march on the Capitol. But it's holding him accountable that's going to divide the country. You got to laugh. I have no call to action for you today. Listen to my other shows. Like this show if you want to. Don't like this show if you don't. It's fine. I kind of want to talk about the other thing I was going to talk about, because I don't like it. And I kind of don't want to talk about it because I don't like it. So on Monday's Mac OS Monday, on today's Mac OS Ken, which was Friday, by the way, the Federal Trade Commission had levied a ruling against a company called Tapjoy. And the whole reason I'm bringing it up is because it sounds like a harbinger of things to come. And I'm not talking about the Tapjoy thing. The Tapjoy thing is fine. Tapjoy was doing really bad stuff, according to CNBC. Basically, what Tapjoy was doing was they were promising advertisers big returns, which the advertisers weren't seeing. They were also, because they were doing in-app ads in games. So they were telling people, hey, do this thing, click this thing, and you'll get all kinds of like in-app currency and stuff like that. And they were telling the people who advertise with them they're going to see big money, no whammies. And really, Tapjoy was just in the middle, like, sucking all this information and all this payment and stuff from the users and sucking it all from the advertisers and not returning anything to anybody. And in a 5-0 decision from the Federal Trade Commission, Tapjoy was found guilty and Tapjoy was fined. And that's fine. That's good. The reason this ends up coming across my radar is because there were two Democratic members on that 5-person panel who decided what they wanted to do was call out Apple and Google. Democratic Commissioners Rohit Chopra and Rebecca Kelly Slaughter said in a statement that they sought to address the conduct of Tapjoy against the backdrop of massive growth of the mobile gaming market. And it's the same kind of incendiary stuff that we heard both from. It's funny because everybody hates big tech, right? You heard Josh Hawley isn't allowed to write his, well, he's allowed to write his book. He can write it all day long. The Tyranny of Big Tech, I believe, is what the title was. But now Simon & Schuster says they're not going to publish it. I have no doubt that he will find somebody to publish his book because it's going to sell, and people want to make money. Yeah. Anyway, so the right hates big tech because big tech is unfair to the right, and the left hates big tech, I think, because they see a chance to score some political points. Everybody should pay attention to big tech. There are definite reasons to pay attention to big tech and to regulate big tech. I have no question about that. I feel like, though, a lot of times big tech is just like a catchphrase. If you're on the right, you say something about big tech and that gets your people happy. And if you're on the left, you say something about big tech and that gets your people happy. You're not saying the same thing, but you do have, what's funny is you do have a common enemy, and yet you hate each other so much you can't get together to fight that thing, which ends up working out okay for big tech most of the time. When they say that they want to try to examine this in, sort of the grander scheme, basically these two Democratic members of the FTC are saying that Apple and Google are unfair because they charge commission. That is not exactly what they're saying, and that's certainly not how they're saying it. What they said in their statement, and this was a statement just from those two Democratic members. The three Republican members did not sign this letter. I don't know if they weren't invited. Maybe they would have. I have no idea. But what they wrote is, we should all be concerned that gatekeepers can harm developers and squelch innovation. The clearest example is rent extraction. Apple and Google charge mobile app developers on their platforms up to 30% of sales, and even bar developers from trying to avoid this tax through offering alternative payment systems. While larger gaming companies are pursuing legal action against these practices, developers and small businesses risk severe retaliation for speaking up, including outright suspension from app stores and effective death sentence. What's interesting is there are footnotes all the way through everything that they've written here. They don't offer a citation for anybody who has been suspended from the App Store for speaking up. And you can't count Fortnite because they didn't just speak up, they also, broke the rules. I don't think there's a rule about not speaking your mind. I could be wrong. I haven't read through all the developer guidelines in a while. I did when I had my app, though, and I don't remember anything like, if we don't like what you say, we're taking, no. See? There's a difference. Apple will let you say stuff that, whatever. I'm going to end up in a logic spiral, and then you're going to see me melt down, like my circuits pop out. The problem that I have with what they're saying is they basically seem to be arguing that because business is difficult, many developers are turning to loot boxes, is one thing they say. Let me go back up really quickly. This market structure also has cascading effects on gamers and consumers. Under heavy taxation by Apple and Google, developers have been forced to adopt alternative monetization models that rely on surveillance, manipulation, and other harmful practices. No, I'm sorry, that's not true. First of all, it's not rent, it's commission. Second, it doesn't have anything to do with the commission that Apple charges. It has to do with greed, or it has to do with being bad at what you're trying to do, or it has to do with taking a shortcut. I don't know which of those things it is. I mean, the thing that I was thinking about, well, there were two things I was thinking about. First, Facebook had its developer account suspended because it got caught using Apple's mobile device management in ways that were counter to the terms of service set out by Apple, right? Is that because Facebook is poor? Is that because Facebook didn't have enough money and so it had to turn to these nefarious ways of doing things? Or is it because Facebook is greedy? And I'm not saying there aren't real hardships for developers. I'm saying you don't then get to say, so they turned to a life of crime because of Apple and Google. I've talked about this before. People sell ads for Mac OS X. People sell ads for in a few minutes. Those people take a commission. That's what this is. This is a commission. You know what I get for that? I get ad dollars. I get to meet advertisers. I get to bring their information to my listeners. These guys don't get nothing for the 30% commission. They get legitimacy. They get trust. They get discoverability. Because do any of these people want to go out and set up their own website and try to get noticed by everybody. I've been podcasting for 15 years. I can't get noticed. I mean, I can, but one of the things that made it possible for people to find macOS Ken was the infrastructure that Apple had set up. And a lot of times I look at it and say, man, Apple really stymied growth for podcasts. And yet I can't deny the fact that Apple also increased discoverability for a lot of people, probably myself included. I don't know how that works today, but this is an infrastructure that's been there. And I'm not even talking about money for me and them, right? They get nothing out of me being there except more content that they can talk about in Apple Podcasts. That 30% goes to support all kinds of things. And for them to sit there and say, I mean, let's back up for a second. Where do you get to live rent free? I don't know if you can tell, but the whole thing makes me kind of mental. And it just feels like it's one of two things. It's either just another way, because now we're talking about these two people whose names I don't remember, and I'm fine with that because I don't want to give them promotion for it. Either they're getting themselves noticed, or this is regulatory rumbling off in the distance. It's kind of tough to say. But how do you get to do that? How do you get to say, yeah, these guys are bad, but I'm pretty sure it's because of the business model employed by these people who, by the way, created this space in which they're playing. If there is no iOS ecosystem, if there is no Apple ecosystem, do you think there's anywhere for Tapjoy to go? And if they're just online, do you think, well, nobody's charging me 30% commission online, so I'm going to be fair and square. I'm going to be completely up. I'm not going to try to steal any information from anybody. I'm not going to try to screw the people who are giving me money. I'm going to be good because I'm not paying a 30% commission. Taxation. Are you... Anyway. Remember, like right before Christmas, there was the car talk, and I thought, oh man, we're going to talk about the car? Hyundai is apparently building the Apple car, but we're out of time. Listen, if you're in the chat room, oh man, I know you guys have been popping off, and I'm excited to see what you have to say. If you're not in the chat room, I wish you were, because I'd be excited to see what you have to say too. This is a thing that we do every Monday through Friday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, barring the occasional holiday. And we would love it if you would join us in the chat room. It's fun. I am thinking of redecorating, though. And there's never cake. macOS Ken starts again Monday in a few minutes. Does start again Monday. Very excited. macOS Ken, in a few minutes turns 1 year old next week. Can you believe it? I can't. The very first guest to be on that show, Peter Cohen, joins us for the 1 year anniversary. And he and I are going to have cake. Try not to be jealous. macOS Ken, like I say, in a few minutes. We'll do this again Monday as well. And I'll talk to you soon. I wish the Parler thing had happened like an hour earlier. Well, I wish it had happened 2 weeks ago. But as far as today's show, I wish it had happened an hour earlier. He called on people to storm the Capitol. And Newt Gingrich, who I'm pretty sure didn't say, no, let's leave the Lewinsky thing alone. And McCarthy, who I'm pretty sure didn't say, I think we've heard enough about Benghazi. They're saying, well, he's almost done. We were almost done. Wednesday. People walking around with handcuffs. with ideas of who they wanted to go after. Do you think they just happened to stumble into Pelosi's office? But, let's just let him, he's almost out of time. Sorry. Anyway. Sorry, everybody. Okay, there we go. I'm better now-ish. So Roger, I used to work. Roger says he used to moderate a couple of IRC channels back when that was a thing, and he never got through a week without having to kick and ban people. I used to work at an AOL call center like 20 years ago now, almost 20 years ago. Almost 20 years ago. Wow. And yeah, over in the corner were some of the saddest, quietest people I'd ever seen. They were content moderation for AOL. And I talked to one of my managers about them one time, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't know how they haven't all killed themselves because of the crap that they had to see." And that was 2002. 2002. Almost 20 years ago. That's Groucho Marx. Bill says, "What's the old joke? I wouldn't want to be part of a club that would have me as a member." Yeah, it's Groucho, I think. Oh, David already said it. It was Groucho. There you go. No Frank? Oh, bummer. Hey, Webb's here. Hi, Webb. Webb was here like half an hour ago. I assume he still is. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Matthew, and you're not wrong. Although Twitter, Matthew says it's funny because Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others have been used by many to do similar things this past year. I'm not citing one way or another, just saying. Yeah, you're not wrong. I guess you go after what you can go after, right? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they can at least point to ways that they say they've tried to do that. Are they great at it? Not necessarily. They don't harbor it, I don't think. That's what I was saying earlier, though, about they're going to find another place. And that place will probably be smart enough to not brand itself as what it actually is. So Roger says it's a complex problem. He's not wrong. Sorry. So here's the thing. I don't know. I may actually have to stop with the comments pretty soon, only because I haven't really had a chance to read it yet, except for what I just read to you. I had read it once before. Breaking news sucks because I think you need time to digest. Hey, Bill says the call to action should have been to buy a decision app and make your own wheel of stuff. That's kind of funny. Oh, Matthew, Gadget Virtuoso, says his company used Tapjoy in their games for ad revenue. We got lots of complaints about not getting their free stuff, which is, of course, why the FTC ended up finding them. Wow, that's kind of funny. Eugene actually bought the Wheel of Stuff app. I bought the app and use it to decide school day lunches with my son. Only contains places I can safely pick up drive-through food. It seems to observe good safety practices. I'm glad you bought that app. I wasn't advertising for them, but I've been really impressed with them because they keep updating it. Wish you could delete the sample wheels. I thought you could, Eugene. Can you not? Donna says maybe on the 21st of January, DJT will start a publishing company and Holly's book will be the first thing to publish. Well, I was going to make a joke. It doesn't have Trump in the title, so I doubt it would be published by a Trump publishing company. Andrew says we developers, moving on to the part about the taxation versus the commission in the App Store, Andrew says we developers have choices which all have consequences. If it sounded, by the way, like I was making light of, I don't think it's easy to be a developer. I don't think there's anything easy about that. I mean, from the actual coding all the way to making a living at it. But I don't think you get to point to somebody else and say, it's so hard to make a living at it that they have to act nefariously. Matthew's got an interesting take on the social media thing. Here's the thing, most of the social media platforms grew their businesses by allowing free expression and creativity of their users. They allow ads and ad sharing and all that. Once they got to be the biggest game in town and put any real competition out of business, they changed the rules and created algorithms that arbitrarily started pulling people's ad revenue and people who built a business. And people who built a business out of YouTube, for instance, were out of business. You know, the person who went and shut up YouTube? Oh, it was a female person of Middle Eastern descent. Okay, yeah, you're getting off on a little bit of a side thing there. But yes, I mean, I have a friend who was doing, this is actually not that. This is actually not that. It is weird how like these platforms do offer monetization things, but they can turn them off at a moment's notice. But that's another thing for another thing. See, it's all just so confusing. What I need is like 3 hours to gather my thoughts, and then I can come back. Hey, John McKee's here because other people were doing the roll call. I assumed you weren't here. Good to see you. No, Bill, it's not me not cursing. Sorry. Bill says, with all the pauses, I think we need a Mac OS Can Live unplugged. We'll have to be on after the kids go to bed. It's not me not cursing. It's me trying to gather my thoughts. Usually on mic, I have no problem not cursing. If we were hanging out at, Macworld or someplace else, I have no problem cursing. Probably shouldn't say that, but it's true. Andrew, I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but if you want to email me, sorry, Andrew says that's not what McCarthy is saying, Ken. It's just not. The problem is we're now dealing with a lag because I was saying whatever I was saying 15 minutes ago. If you want to email me, info@macosken.com, and tell me what you're saying, I will happily engage and respond. But I don't want to tell you you're right, nor do I want to tell you you're wrong, because I'm not certain exactly what you're responding to there. But email me, because I would happily have the conversation. Sorry, Matthew says the hard part about being a developer and making a living at it is that people want their stuff for free. They don't want the ads, but they don't want to pay for it either. You can't have it both ways. That is true. I'm not sure though, Gadget Virtuoso, and if you want to email me as well, I would love to continue this conversation. Parler is a cesspool of human beings, says Matthew. Gadget Virtuoso Matthew. Parler is a cesspool of human beings, but Apple really should stop being the gatekeeper on what apps are in the store and instead should label them or give them ratings so that people can avoid if desired. If they're actively using it to plot harm, I think I disagree. No, I disagree. I don't think Apple has any problem with voices from either side of the political spectrum. If you go into the news section of Apple Podcasts, for example, there's a ton of right wing stuff there. And I'm not saying anything bad about that. I'm saying there's a ton of right wing stuff there. Apple is not leaning right or leaning left here. I think if you had Salon, well, Salon's actually something. If you had a left leaning app that was suddenly being used to incite violence, to plan violence, pretty sure Apple would remove that too. I don't think it's about voices from the right, voices for the left, because we've known about Parler all year or longer. It's apparently several years old, although it became a cause celeb for the right sometime in 2020, which, I can't remember exactly when, but that's because 2020 was only 5 years long. It became a cause celeb for the right sometime in 2020, and Apple didn't stop it. I don't think Apple is actually interested in censoring speech. I think they are interested in not having an app in the App Store that is used for people to plan how they're going to catch and kill other people. There's a difference. It's the whole you can't yell fire in a crowded theater thing, right? I mean, unless there's actually a fire. There's free speech. And then, I mean, that's not what that was. And I'm sorry if other people get swept up in that. But if you can point to places where people are inciting violence, if you can point to places where people are planning violent activity, I remember asking my mom, there was a joke in, no, never mind, I'm not going to do that. They're planning killing people. That app gets to go. If they are knowingly being a harbor for a place where people are getting together and deciding how they're going to kill people, that app gets to go. And you know what? The podcast that does that gets to go as well. It's not about silencing voices on the right. It's about saying, you're planning to kill people. I don't want you to do that. I don't want to be a part of that. Hopefully, what actually happens is people read Parler and figure out who the people are who are actively plotting to kill people, because that has to be stopped. And that's not thought police. That is, if your buddy says, I'm going to go kill somebody, you probably ought to call the authorities. It's not about free speech. It's about premeditated murder. Sorry to yell. It felt like yelling to me, Jeff. All right. I've actually got Peter Cohen for In a Few Minutes in Less Than 20 Minutes. I appreciate being able to do this with you guys. I really do. I won't say it was fun today because it's not fun. It's important, I think. But I really appreciate your being here and I appreciate your being part of it. And now I got a motor because I got to, turn this around and then do another show. Thank you all very much. All right. Yeah. All right. You're wonderful. Hey, happy birthday, by the way, to Elvis Presley and David Bowie and my friend Lisa, and apparently my paternal grandmother, which I didn't even know. But I mean, I knew her. I didn't know it was her birthday, but she's no longer with us. So I think she'll forgive me. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful weekend.